world we live in. But anyway, for those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live, my name is Vicki Morris, and I am the Program Director and host for RISE, which is Regional Innovators Sustaining the Ecosystem. And today we are in for a very special treat. We are having a panel discussion about the life cycle of a startup business. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for braving the downtown elements and coming to see our building in the basement. We are directly below the radar. We're going to be here for the next few events, and this is a great space for the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit because we are in the Innovate Huntsville Center downtown. If you have not had an opportunity to register, you can scan this QR code and get registered. And the most important thing about registering is that you will get information about our coming events. You will know when we have a speaker, what the speaker is going to be talking about. And from time to time, we drop free nuggets in our email list. Tools, tips, and strategies to help you grow your business and fine-tune the things that you're doing. And the best way to get that is by being on our email list. And if you are registered with our events, that will automatically put you on our list. So I also want to tell you about SCORE. SCORE is our presenting sponsor. They are partnering with RISE to help spread the word about the great things that they offer for small businesses. SCORE is a free organization, and it is funded by the SBA. If you're looking for a business mentor to start your business, or you're already in business and you need a little bit of fine-tuning, SCORE is a great opportunity, great platform there. There are mentors that are ready to assist you, and the way you get in touch with them is at score.org. There are volunteers in a number of industries all across the country. It is a national organization, and part of my job is to help inform our North Alabama audience about SCORE and the benefits of working with SCORE. So simply once you go to the website, enter your zip code, and that will get the wheels in motion to get you situated with a mentor in your industry that can help you grow your business or help you work through a particular problem that you may be experiencing at any particular time. I also want to say thank you to our sponsors and partners. Passion HR, they are, I think, knee-deep at S&D this week. So they are one of our sponsors. Face-to-Face Marketing is my company. Face-to-Face Marketing funds a lot of things that go on with RISE and just the machine behind everything that we do with RISE. SCORE, of course, is one of our partner organizations. SEL and Associates is owned by Steve Levy, and Steve is our breakfast sponsor and has been for several years, so we are very thankful for that. Dean Commercial Real Estate is one of our sponsors of our partners, and Dean Commercial Real Estate is providing our video feed this morning. So thank you, Dean Commercial Real Estate and Joe Kopp for that. Minuteman Press has also done a lot of work with us. They are our printing partner. A lot of the signs and notepads that we have for RISE are printed by Minuteman Press. Pixel Jones is also one of our partner organizations. When we first came back to in-person events after the first round of the pandemic, we were over at Pixel Jones Studio to host our event, so we are very grateful to him for that. So these are our sponsors, and if you have an opportunity to work with them, connect with them, please give them a call and let them know you heard about it from RISE. So now, we want to connect. We're a small, intimate group this morning, so we want to know who you are. You've heard a whole lot about who I am, so we're going to go around the room, and I want everyone to stand and tell me in 10 seconds. Not a big pitch, but your name, your company, and one really cool thing about your company that you want people to know. So the idea is next time you come back, you tell me one new thing about your company that you want us to know. So we're going to start with her.
Good morning, my name is Leah Hoffman. I do not have a company. I am a woman of quite few talents, so I came here to see how I could kind of start tapping into some of those.
All right, well, thank you. All right, Herb, you want to go?
I'm Herb Hayes, Pro Branch. I do life coaching, helping people find jobs, helping people with their financial, and I don't charge individuals. I've never made $1 helping people with, it's all volunteer. And I'm a corporate speaker.
All right, thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Adrienne. I'm a registered nurse and I own part of concierge care, and I can help make your recovery more comfortable after plastic surgery, getting hospitalization, situations like that.
Val Foreman, company I work Cake Sciences, doing it for 13 years, kind of growing from a garage to building full of people, and I've been sort of involved in this with previous iterations of it for, I guess, since it started, even on the frequent lately.
But hey, you are dedicated in the ecosystem there. You've been a part of this. That's where I first met you. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Billy Curtis, Curtis Leadership Trainer, and also a job basketball coach trainer.
All right, nice to have you. Bob?
Bob Druckman, South Huntsville Neighbors, and we reach a lot of homes in South Huntsville, and we actually connect people with and their businesses in our magazine.
Actually, I'm Suzanne Druckman, the other part of the publishing, South Huntsville Neighbors, and we connect people and start giving you information about our community. If we find a person and we feel they're new in the area, we'll try to help them connect up. So we are connectors. Let's connect.
All right, awesome. Yes, sir.
I'm Chris Berkey with Burkett and Associates Insurance. I provide commercial and personal lines insurance. Good thing about our company is we can shop and find the best insurance solutions.
All right. Joe.
I'm Joe Kopp with B Commercial Real Estate. What we do is we take the complicated world of commercial real estate and we're actually in your corner, simplify it, and help you make better decisions.
Awesome, awesome. And we'll get to know our panelists in just a minute, but thank you all for doing that, and I hope you come back next time, and tell a few more people about this. We will probably be back here again on August 27th, and if you've registered, we have your email, we'll send you some information about that. So now I'm going to turn everything over to Joe. It looks like, to Steve. I'm going to step out. I think somebody's at the back door, but Steve's going to get this front.
Okay, so we're going to do a panel discussion this morning, and we're going to talk about sort of the various steps that someone who's an entrepreneur trying to get a business off the ground, what are some of the things that they need to be aware of, and things they need to do to give themselves the most greatest opportunity to be successful. We've got a great panel this morning. We've got experts in different areas. And I think we'll start with just some brief introductions of who we are, and a very quick bio of what we do. So I'm going to start it, and then I'm going to ask the other three panelists to quickly introduce themselves. So I'm Stephen Levy. My business is SEL and Associates. I am a business advisor, and I work with business owners, and I help them in whatever area that they are struggling with as part of their business leadership and management. And Vicki, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Okay. All right, I am Vicki Morris, and I am the owner of Face to Face Marketing. We are a full-service marketing and branding communications company, helping you connect with the clients you most want to work with.
Good morning. I am Sharon Heiss. I am with ProfitWise Accounting. We help you with your QuickBooks, with your accounting. We help you stay out of trouble with the IRS or get you out if you're already there.
Patrick.
I'm Pat Sebesta. I'm an attorney at F&B Law Firm, which is a stone's throw right over here. We are a business law firm, so we don't represent individuals. We represent businesses. We are a small group, and we advise startups anywhere to multinational giant corporations. So if you have any questions, we're kind of a jack of all trades in the business aspect. So that's kind of what we do, what we focus on.
All right. So how do you want to seat it here? Patrick, you want to come and join us on the panel? I want to make sure I'm in the camera too.
Maybe you'll sit over there.
Sharon?
Yep. Good.
All right, so I'm going to kick this off with just some basics relative to some things that you're definitely going to want to do if you are looking at starting a business. All of us at one time or another have had some great idea that's popped into our head and said, boy, I think I can make a business out of it. And there's no question that that's how thousands of businesses, if not millions of businesses, have gotten started. But the ones that have the best shot of being successful actually do some things before they actually start that business. So I'm going to point out a couple of things that I think are real important that you've got to do if you want to get started. First and foremost, you really need to determine, is the product or service that I'm going to offer, is it something that people actually want, and more importantly, are willing to pay for it? Because if they don't want it, then you definitely don't have anything. And if they're interested in it, as long as it's free, that's not a very good business game plan either. So you need to be able to test that. Vicki, when she starts to talk about some of the marketing aspects that you'll do, we'll get into a little more detail there. But do your own version of a test market. Talk to people you know. Try to get a flavor for what the interest level is, and most importantly, are they willing to pay for it? And if they are, about how much would they be willing to pay for it, because it matters. The second thing that you want to do once you feel you've got something that is marketable is put together your business plan. How am I actually going to do this? A lot of folks will say, well, I got all the ideas up here in my head. Well, the problem with that is you have no way of communicating that with other people to test it, to see if what you've done, at least in concept, makes some sense. So I always suggest you write it down, because when you actually have to write it down, it forces you to fully articulate how you're going to handle all the various aspects of your business. The other thing that you want to do is find somebody that you can say it out loud to, because it always sounds great when you're talking in your head or looking at yourself in the mirror. But if you can get somebody, and whether it's someone like myself as a business advisor or another business professional like the people sitting in the panel here or other people that you know or trust, run it by them. Let them ask you questions, and don't get defensive about it. Actually respond to the questions, because sometimes the things that they will point out are things you haven't thought of, and that's the whole reason of going through that process. Once you've determined that you think you've really got something, now you start to put the nuts and bolts together of how this business is going to work. Do I need a storefront? Am I going to just do all my business online? Do I need an office that I work out of? Do I need multiple locations to support my business? You need to start to think about those things. One of the other aspects that you need to do, and I know Sharon, when she gets into some of the accounting related things that go into it, you got to make sure that the business is actually going to make a profit, but you also need to know how long it's going to take from when you start to when it makes a profit, because the number one thing that kills most new businesses is during the startup phase, they run out of cash, and that's what brings them down. So you got to be able to figure out how much cash do you need to get you through the early phases of your business. And then another important item is there going to be money left over for you as the owner? Is there compensation for you? That's usually the whole reason why you do this. So you got to make sure that there's going to be enough money, and if there's not, again, you have enough startup capital to keep your household going until your business gets to a size that it allows you to start to take some real money out of it. Where are you going to get your investment? Another critical thing that you're going to have to deal with. Most businesses will need some kind of investment, whether it's a bank loan or a family member who gives them money, or you actually go out and raise some capital from people that are willing to invest. You got to think about what that looks like. And I guarantee you, if you go to a bank or any type of institution that can lend you money, they're going to want to see a plan. They're going to want to see numbers. They're not going to take you at your word that it's going to be a great success. And then the last thing that I'll suggest before we turn it over is think both in terms of what your first year looks like, because that's a very critical year. That's the one that will determine whether you get off the ground or not. But you also want to start to think about what the long term looks like. And I'm sure at some point in the future, Vicki will want to host a discussion on what I like to call scaling your business, which is when you take it from, if you will, that one person or two person operation to actually turning it into a meaningful ongoing business where it actually has some size and scale. So that's sort of my lead into this. And what I'm going to now do is we're going to go around the panel here, and everybody's going to talk about some of the very specific areas that you need to be doing to make your business work. My philosophical advice on this is when you start a business, there's only two things that you as the owner want to be doing. You either need to be finding your customers and servicing your customers. Those are the only two things you need to do. Everything else, if you can outsource it, do it, because you'll end up getting bogged down in things that do nothing to help you make your business work. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. We're going to start with Vicki to talk about the whole concept of marketing, branding, and promotion, and in 5 minutes she's going to tell you everything you need to know.
Of course. So I do want to let everybody know, as each person is talking, if you want to know more about their business, there will be a QR code up there. You can scan that QR code, focus your camera on that QR code, and it should pop up a link for you to find out more about them. But, so marketing and branding. One of the biggest things people have a misconception about is the importance of branding, how you brand your business. And your branding should be focused on who you want to reach, knowing who that ideal client avatar is. And that avatar is a composite of the people you most want to work with. So it's the demographics and the psychographics, how they make buying decisions. These are things that you need to know, and that is what you frame your branding and your marketing around. I did an email recently with face-to-face marketing where I asked people what was their favorite color, because typically that's how they choose their branding colors, what their favorite color is. But does that color resonate with the people you want to reach? That's a question you need to ask. And what mood or emotion do you want people to experience when they encounter your business? All of that has to do with the colors you choose. That's very, very important. And what fonts are you going to use? Fonts are important because it adds to the overall aesthetic of what you're trying to communicate. So these are some really important decisions that you need to think about as you are crafting your message. And my 3 pillars that I talk about when people are building their marketing strategy: your website, your social media, and your email. They all need to work together, and they all need to feel related. Your website needs to have a job. Your website's job is to get people to take an action. You have to decide what that action is. Is it going to be buy a service? Is it going to be make an appointment? Is it going to be look at our offers? It's going to be something that you want people to take an action on. So make sure your website is designed with that in mind. It should be great in functionality. It should look great, but make sure you know what your website's job is. Now, moving on from websites, your social media. I have clients that come to me all the time and will say, well, I don't do social media and that's just not my thing. Well, you don't need to be in business. Social media is a thing. It is a part of business. You just have to figure out which platform is best for you. Best for you in reaching the clients you want to reach. If your client base is on LinkedIn, you probably don't need to spend a whole lot of time on Facebook and Instagram. You need to concentrate your efforts on LinkedIn. Learn how to do LinkedIn. And that goes back to knowing your ideal client avatar. You know where they are going to find information, where they're going to look for connections and look for collaborative opportunities and look for services to help them fill a need that they have. So make sure you know what social media platform you need to be on and do some research into business posting on social media. Social media has a job. Just like your website has a job, your social media has a job. Make sure you give that social media platform its job assignment. Is it to get people on your email list? Is it to get people into your brick and mortar? Is it to educate people? Sharon puts a lot of things on social media about educating people, just little tools and tips about making you smarter. That is strategic. Yes, it's great information that she's putting out, but she's getting you hooked on looking for that information that she's giving you. She's making you smarter. So when you have those questions about accounting and bookkeeping and all of that, ProfitWise is top of mind. Sharon Hines is top of mind. The beautiful blue dress is top of mind. It's all strategic. It's beautifully done. It's attracting you. It's attracting your attention. And the way she uses blue, and I'm picking on Sharon, she uses blue, and that's a strategic color. Blue is a very calming color. It gives a sense of relaxation that you don't have to worry about things. It's, you know, she's got this. That's the mood and color psychology of blue. So these are things that I talk about with some of my clients, learning how to guide your client to do exactly what you want them to do. And the last thing I want to focus on is email marketing. This is one of the best ways to connect with your ideal audience. And this is all marketing things. And we can make it pretty and make it design-wise and all of that, but its function is to nurture your audience. You give them things to make them smarter about what you do. The email that I just sent out about what's your favorite color, that was helping people, introducing the conversation about color psychology. I asked people to tell me what their favorite color was, and I sent them a color analysis based on using that color in their branding. It was a fun exercise, but I think people learned some things, and we had a good time interacting with each other. I was nurturing my audience. Using email newsletters is a great way to make people smarter. It's not about going in for the sale all the time. It's about that slow nurturing them. You give them a little bit, a little here, a little there, make them smarter about what you do and how you can help them, and answer some pain points. When you know your ideal client avatar, you know what they're struggling with, and that is what you build your marketing around. So that's everything you need to know about marketing right there.
Before we move on to Sharon,
yes,
one thing I want you to expand on just a little bit.
Okay.
The target customer or the avatar that you're going after, and why that is so important to have that well thought out before you launch.
Yes. So if you don't have this right, nothing is going to make sense. It's going to help you fine-tune your strategy. You need to understand who it is that needs your service, needs your product. If you don't understand who you are targeting, who your audience is, then your business is not going to do well because you're just kind of here, there, and everywhere. But getting that laser focus, taking some time, ask some questions. Who needs, purple widgets? Or who is struggling with such and such? Know what those audience members are struggling with and understand who they are, what their demographics are. You need to know if your target audience is a man, is it a woman, is it both? Is it someone that's 25, is it someone that's 55? That matters. Understand that. And making sure that the people you are targeting can afford the services that you are offering. Like Steve was saying earlier, I can give free services all day, every day, but if that's the only people that are hanging on to what I'm doing, I am not in business. So that is very, very important. It's something you have to kind of get over within yourself. It is about making money. You want to find people that can afford to buy the services at the quality you want to provide them. Something Steve told me years ago is that you never, when someone asks you to discount your services, or can you give them a discount, the answer should be, yes, I can give you a discount, but I'm going to also decrease what I'm going to give you. So make sure that that is a fluid relationship, and understanding if they can afford the services and you understand who it is you are actually targeting. That is monumentally important. I spend a lot of time with new clients who haven't figured that out. I have a whole client avatar building workshop. So this is very, very important. I guarantee you, when Steve is working with somebody, that's one of the first things he's going to talk about too. Who are you working with? Who's your ideal client?
Exactly. Great. Okay, so we're going to move on to Sharon to talk about the topic that most business owners don't have a clue how to deal with, and yet they immediately jump into and say, hey, I can take care of my own books, I can handle my taxes, I can do my payroll. So Sharon, I'm going to let you talk about the role that the financial information and the whole accounting and tax process, how that works.
Okay, thank you. One of the things I wanted to ask, Patrick, do you do LLC? Do you set up the entities?
Yes, we do.
Business structure, how you choose your business structure from the very beginning is so important. We see so many sole proprietors and they just get busy working and they make money and then they're making money and they're paying way too much in tax and they haven't chosen a business structure. And then we help you with the S Corp election. That is a tax election. That's not a separate entity structure. And there's a lot of confusion in that area, and it's very important. So we start there, and then we start with, what are you doing for bookkeeping? How do you keep up with your income and expenses? Are you at a level where you can use an Excel spreadsheet? Do you need to move to QuickBooks? And when we help you with QuickBooks, we help you at any level. We help people set up their chart of accounts specific to their business. We refine it to where, if you're doing it yourself, if that account's not in there, it's probably not a business deduction. We can help you set it up. There's training. People need to be trained with QuickBooks. There's so many little mistakes that can be made with QuickBooks that will get you audited. Yes, yeah, it's rough.
This is why you hire an accountant.
Yeah. QuickBooks it's good and bad. It is the largest software accounting provider for entrepreneurs. It helps you keep all your items together when you're together at the end of the year. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. And it makes your tax prep easier. So from the bookkeeping, then you move to the tax area. It is so important to do tax planning along the way. There's so many people that if they're just filing a Schedule C and they're a solo person, you have this mean bad thing called self-employment tax that will eat you alive. And that's where the S Corp election helps us with the self-employment tax. It's really sad to see somebody that's worked so hard to make so much money and they've gotten up to, our bracket's usually about 30,000. When your net is 30, that's the time to make the S Corp election because there's a lot of things involved with the S Corp election. You have to be on payroll. You have to give yourself a W-2. Even if you're the only person, you have to be on payroll. But at that $30,000 net profit, that is when it's worth it to you to spend the extra money for someone to process your payroll and do the tax returns. We just had a case a couple of weeks ago where someone had done their own tax return, and TurboTax, all it can do is ask you the questions and you put in the answers. It had asked in several different areas, how many miles did you travel? They had put 25,000 and something miles 4 times. They're being audited now. So the tax planning is so important. Reach out to help from someone. There's so much help out there for your entity structure, marketing. Steve is great at holding people accountable. We've worked with Steve. There's nothing like someone holding you accountable for doing all the right things. And it makes a difference whether you succeed or fail.
Before we move off of you, just a couple of things that I'd like you to touch on that are related, not directly to what you do, but talk a little about the importance of having a banking relationship as a business.
They want you to speak up a little bit.
Can you speak up?
Okay, so what I've asked Sharon is just to talk a little bit about the importance of having a banking relationship in your business.
A banking relationship is very important. In this day and time, we're losing track of relationships. And at different points in your business, you're going to need to know your banker. You're going to need that relationship. They will help you and guide you before you get there. They'll let you know that you're going to need a business plan. You're going to need financial statements. Those relationships are very important.
And then the one other thing I'll ask you to touch on is most of the business owners that I've worked with early on may have an accounting firm that provides them profit and loss statements periodically. But what should they be doing with that information when they get it?
Please, please review your profit and loss every month. We suggest that you review it somewhere between the 10th and the 15th. Once you pass the 15th, you could have missed an opportunity to make a change. There's valuable information in that profit and loss, and that's where you watch your net income to know where you're at with your self-employment tax. Tax planning, that's where from the profit and loss you move to your tax planning.
Okay, great, appreciate it. All right, so we're going to move on to Pat now. We're going to talk a bit about legal stuff. I know Sharon touched on a little bit about the tax implications of some of the entities. But I'd like you to start maybe to talk about some of the protections that the various entities can provide to a business. And I'll caveat it with that when you're trying to decide what your entity should be, the accountants will typically lean towards how can we save you money on taxes. The attorneys will lean on how can we best protect you and your personal assets.
Yes.
Okay. And then you as the owner have to decide which one makes the most sense for me. So Patrick, with that as a lead, and I'm going to let you start.
Real quickly, I think the one lesson you should take away from this panel discussion is that there are some sunk costs in starting a business, but one of those sunk costs should be getting advisors involved, whether it be a business advisor, an accountant, a marketing person. I'll say lawyer, some shameless plug, but because there are so many ways in which you can do this wrong. I know you've heard the audit word several times, but same thing with setting up these corporate entities. You want to make sure you're doing this correctly. And it's not something I advise you do on your own. I mean, there may be some Reddit pages that tell you how you can do it to save a dime, but I really advise you to get in with somebody who knows what they're doing. But to answer Steve's question, there's really 3 corporate entities that you see most often. There's the corporation, there's the limited liability company, and there's the sole proprietorship. I think to answer Steve's question, I'll talk briefly about the differences between those and kind of the pros and cons. First, you have your traditional corporation. This is the oldest separate entity of the different elections you can make. The benefit of having a corporation is that it provides what's called limited liability, in that a corporation is a separate legal entity from you individually. So from the legal standpoint, if something were to happen and there was potential liability and really associated with your business, you want to have that entity separate and apart from yourself, that accounts are not commingled, something entirely separate, because you don't want to involve your own personal assets. I don't want to involve Pat Sebesta's own personal assets. I don't want to involve my house and my car in something my business is doing. So just having some separation from you personally is really the best benefit to having a corporation. The downside with having a corporation, a traditional corporation, the C Corp, which is what the default is that the tax implications can be kind of onerous because there's something that's called double taxation, and I'm sure Sharon can tell you more about this than I could. She's the pro. But for a C Corp, the net income of a corporation is taxed. And then those incomes are then distributed to the shareholders, and those distributions are then taxed again as personal income. So you see how that is actually taxed twice. On the other hand, you have what's called a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is an unincorporated business where you're essentially just doing business as Pat Sebesta, DBA, whatever. The benefit of that is those profits are passed directly through to you, so that you don't have that same tax implication, okay? But it's unincorporated. It is not a separate entity, which means that if Pat Sebesta's out here doing business and Pat Sebesta screws something up, I could be liable, and I could get involved in a lawsuit, and then my own assets become intertwined with this. Do not want that. Big no-no. Do not do a sole proprietorship. I'll tell you that. I feel pretty confident in saying that. There is a third one called a limited liability company that is a relatively new structure in the grand scheme of things. I'll tell you, 99% of people we see in our office, we advise to do a limited liability company, and I would be willing to bet 99.5% of people in this room probably need an LLC. One, LLCs are low maintenance. With the corporation, you have to have directors meetings, and you have to keep paperwork and have annual meetings and all these other stuff. And if you don't abide by these corporate formalities, that limited liability can be a risk. They can pierce the corporate veil, where they can get to you personally. A limited liability company only really has to abide by its operating agreement, which you draft, and you can tailor to whatever you need done for your company. An LLC is also what's called a pass-through entity, which means there is no double taxation. All profits are passed directly through to the members of the LLC. So you don't have this double taxation problem. And as the name implies, it is a limited liability company, meaning there is limited liability. It's still a separate legal entity. A limited liability company was designed to provide the best of both worlds from a corporation and a sole proprietorship. With the corporation, you can get a S election and become a pass-through entity, but you still have to abide by some formalities and and the like. But in general, the three you're most often going to see or be asked about are corporations, sole proprietorships, and limited liability companies. And for everybody in this room, I would feel confident in saying that you should probably think about a limited liability company first, but talk to a lawyer, talk to a business advisor, and see if that's really what you need. But as a general rule, that's kind of where you should think about going. If that answers Steve's question.
And the second thing I want you to do as a subset of that is talk about the governing articles that kind of why they're important to set up early on rather than down the road when you now have a problem.
Absolutely. So what's interesting about an operating agreement is what this is called. An operating agreement governs your business, it kind of sets out limitations and sets out how it operates. What's interesting is that you actually do not need that. There is no legal requirement for you to have an operating agreement. But as a practical matter, you absolutely should have one. They are something that you should have a lawyer draft. It is something that's not filed with the state, but one, it sets out how the business operates. And in particular, what we see often is it often sets out if there's a dispute, it sets out how that dispute is resolved, which disputes can be very costly. They can result in litigation. They can result in mediation. Those are things that are not free. Those are costs associated with that. And if you can build into your operating agreement how the business operates so everybody's on the same page about it, including how some disagreements are resolved, you can really save yourself some costs in the long run. Also with an operating agreement, just as a practical matter, it kind of makes your business look legit. Because sometimes lending institutions, these people that want to see your business plan, they'll want to see your LLC's operating agreement. And to not have one, again, you don't have to have one, but it certainly helps you get these lines of credit, makes you look more legit to people you want to look legit to, whoever that may be. So it's something you should definitely have. And it's something you should talk to an attorney about when you form that corporate entity. It is something, it's practically a necessity, even though it's not. But that's kind of why we do.
And one other thing that I'll add that you may want to touch on briefly too, if you have partners, which often is the case, the time to have the buy-sell provision set up is when you start, not when one of you wants to get out, and now there's a dispute over how that's going to be handled.
That is something that I should have touched on, absolutely. I mean, we deal with that as well, where people want to just, because it happens a lot. A lot of times people set up an LLC and they'll go for 5 or 6 years, maybe less, and then they realize that, hey, we just want to shift my ownership to somebody else in here, and they just don't want to have any part of it. Again, it comes down to, from your perspective, the cost of doing business. And to have that set out on the front end, how somebody will exit a business, how somebody will transfer their ownership interest to somebody else, again, saves you those costs on the back end of trying to figure that out. Again, if you can kind of set out everything at the front with somebody who's done this before, kind of say, if this situation arises, this is how we'll handle it. People are on notice if this is how it will happen. People will have their expectations set appropriately, and when the time comes to spend money to have that happen, you spend a lot less money.
So last thing I'm just going to ask you to touch on briefly is the whole area of intellectual property, from patents to trademarks and other types of things that you may want as protections. Just talk a little bit about the sort of pros and cons of why you would do it versus when you wouldn't.
Right. So the 4 types of intellectual property, I think everybody can kind of generally be aware of and how they're different. Trademarks are typically something that apply to commercial names, phrases, logos, something you see. Most often you see it with an image, like F&B Law Firm, when you saw it on the first slide. That's trademarked. And how you go about trademarking something is you get with an IP attorney, you register that with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and from there, that is a protected image. And if somebody were to start using that image or something confusingly similar, you can defend that through litigation. And it's something that you should consider doing. Just be aware, like with anything, it's something that is going to cost you money to trademark. to go through the paperwork and the formalities of doing that. And that's something you're going to want a lawyer to do. I can tell you about how to go about doing that, but that's something you're just get with a lawyer because that's not something you can just do. But just be aware, like with anything, there's a cost associated with it. And defending a trademark can be expensive. We just got out of a trademark dispute. It was getting in federal court, and there were, I think, 5 law firms involved at one point, and so it can be a mess. But copyrights are they're monitored by the U.S. Copyrights Office, but they primarily protect like software code, recipes, literary, historic things that are written down. You know, like a piece like copyright you typically see in kind of affiliated with authors, things like that. If that makes sense. Like if you had, something that some novel work you've created, like some software code, you could copyright that. And there are some common law copyrights, but just kind of be aware of that. And that is something I would get directly to an IP attorney. And briefly, patents. Patents work similar to trademarks in that they're registered with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Therefore, inventors, where you have come up with a novel idea. Again, patents are great because they protect your intellectual property. By registering this intellectual property with the Patent Office, the same thing you have to consider is that there are costs associated with it. There are costs associated with registering it. There are costs associated with defending it. So I would have a meeting with an intellectual property attorney and talk about, and it's all very fact specific, about what your idea is, how you think you can make money from it, if it's worth patenting, because there's going to be a cost benefit analysis associated with it. And that's really a conversation with somebody in an office to say, this is what I have, this is how I think I can make money from it. Is it worth potentially sinking costs into defending it? And if the answer is yes, then I would advise you to proceed with patenting it. The last thing that I think people overlook because it's less sexy is trade secrets. Trade secrets are vital. Trade secrets are the Coca-Cola secret recipe. They are, if you have a coffee shop, if you're Honest Roasters, and you have the best latte in town and you have a recipe, you really can't copyright a recipe. You can copyright the sheet it's on, but if somebody reads a recipe, they can take that, memorize it, go down the street, and start making your world famous latte down 2 blocks away, and somebody can go there and steal your customers. The thing you should do as a business owner to protect your trade secrets is have confidentiality agreements in place with all your employees, where it is simply an agreement where you agree with your employee that these items that you are providing to them are the property of your business, and that any disclosure to a third party will potentially submit them to some liability. I would consider a non-compete agreement, which is an agreement you make with an employee whereby, if you terminate their employment or they leave your employ, you have an agreement where they cannot work in a certain geographic region for a certain given amount of time. And that limits them from going, you hire somebody, you train them up, they learn what they're doing, and then they go, again, 2 blocks down and start doing it for your competitor. That limits that, and that's a way to protect those trade secrets. That's something anybody can do. There's less costs associated with it. Of course, enforcing that still might involve a lawsuit, but it's easy to kind of have those forms in place. And that's something, again, I would not draft myself. I would advise getting with an attorney to do that, because there are pitfalls, of course, and that's a separate conversation. But those are kind of the 4 areas, but I would advise anyone to at least think of trade secrets, because the other 3 may not be applicable to you, but there's something everybody can do to kind of have your paperwork in place to ensure that nobody can steal your bread and butter.
Great answer, appreciate it. Vicki, I'm going to turn it back to you because I'm going to get back into the timeline here.
Yes, so this has been some really, really great information. I have learned a lot. I'm a business owner just like everyone here, so I hope that you have taken away some nuggets of information that you can use. And what I'm going to do, our next event is August 27th. We are planning to be right back down here, and I will send out more information on that as well. And I am going to put the loop back on so that if you have questions for our panelists, you can scan that QR code and communicate directly with them, or if they've got time to hang around for a few minutes after the fact today, you can talk with them and ask them your questions, but definitely reach out to them. I am very appreciative to everyone for taking the time this morning to be here, and I hope you will take advantage of their time too and ask them a question or two. One of the first things that I did when I made enough money, I hired an accountant. That was one of the things that it just made life so much easier for me, and I highly encourage you to think about that. I know what's going on with accounting, but my accountant is doing it for me and just telling me what's going on, and I can spend my time doing things that I'm good at. So take that little nugget. If you don't take anything else, definitely look into hiring people to help you do the things so that you can do what you are great at. So with that, thank you everyone for coming. There's coffee, there's pastries, make yourself at home. You can hang out as long as you want to, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time.